Dale. So excited to have you here today. I'm curious, one thing that I often talk with schools about is social proof. Can you tell me a little bit more about social proof and why it's so important for schools?
It's so important because it converts prospective families to enrolled families. And I think the bottom line is that prospective families trust community voices, the actual members of your community, more than your marketing messaging. And I know we all work really hard on our marketing copy on our website and various other channels, but it's so important to incorporate the actual testimonials and perspective of your students and your parent and your faculty and alums. So I think once you do that, you're building trust and you're building credibility, and you're going to be more successful in your enrollment marketing.
I love that. I think when you were talking, I was just thinking about, I just did a recent presentation on millennials and like how important that peer recommendation piece is for them. And social proof, I always talk to schools about the idea that they've experienced a product or service and like people want to know what their experience was. And that's all it is. Basically like they are talking about your school and parents are looking for people who know about the school and have been through it. And exactly what you said, like, are they going to trust the ad, like the copy from a website, the school itself, or a peer recommendation more? And peer recommendation, hands down, right?
And there's tons of data out there that prove that families are going to go more with word of mouth. And so when we incorporate social proof into our marketing, we're basically packaging that word of mouth and getting it out farther and faster than if we wait for a family to speak with a prospective family at an open house. We can accomplish word of mouth in digital ways, and we can help, magnify it and disseminate it more quickly.
Absolutely. And that's so important. Now, I know there might be some schools out there thinking, oh, this is great. What can I do now for social proof? Do you have some actions that they might be able to take right now?
Yeah, when I work with clients, I find that they often feel a little intimidated. And this is a huge project if they're going to take on, interviewing community members and trying to write profiles and publish them. But one thing that I find helps is just to make things smaller. So could you commit to interviewing 4 community members? Let's say 1 student, 1 parent, 1 teacher, and 1 alum. And, how do we get those names? Well, probably the fastest and easiest way is at your next leadership meeting. You have an administrative team meeting, email everyone in advance and say, hey, we're going to brainstorm this. So maybe start thinking about it now. And then you can be thinking about, who's a student who, recently had a win because of an interaction with a teacher. And who's that parent who kind of flies under the radar but volunteers at your admission events and has really deep conversations with families. That's a great person to talk to. Who is a teacher who recently did school-supported professional development and is going to rave about how they're incorporating that into their teaching and into their extracurricular advising, that sort of thing. And who is an alum who a staff member recently connected with at reunion last year. Those are the people you want to think of, the people who are going to answer your email or your phone call and are not going to make it really hard for you to schedule with. But if they are hard to schedule with, create a Google form and just send it to them and see what you get, because sometimes that can produce a decent quote that you can use on your website.
I love it. I love that you made it so actionable and we're not asking for 25 different things. You're like, start with four
Right.
things. And then basically you can use that content for so many different things and it really sets them up for success. So I think that was so great to include those actionable pieces there.
And it can be really fun to talk to your community members, especially the ones who are so sold on the experience. I find that it helps staff members to feel encouraged in their roles. And so when you're thinking about the time investment that this would entail, consider it an investment in your own morale, because oftentimes these conversations will bring you to tears and will really encourage you. And they're going to have that same effect when you share those authentic stories with your prospective families. They're really going to tug at their emotions in the best possible way.
I love that, Dale. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you were able to share those actionable strategies with our amazing audience.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.